The next step for chord playing is getting used to playing in tempo or with a beat. I've talked about this in a previous video and I really can't stress it enough. You need to get used to playing with rhythm as soon as you can. Pretty much all the songs you're probably going to want to play on guitar are in tempo and have a beat. And you're going to realize quickly that you can't be in the habit of pausing in between chords and taking your sweet old time. This is especially important for students who, let's say, aren't so musically inclined. I mean, if you are like a singer or a dancer, or you play another instrument, or just have any type of musical experience at all, you already know this. You know, once the song starts, it's not going to wait around for you. But, you know, if you pick up the guitar just as a hobby, or if it's your first instrument, this is something you're going to have to learn. You know, you can't just sit around all day playing chords slowly. You have to actively work on your rhythm and strumming and tempo. So, as early on as I feel appropriate, I will start students on a very basic strumming regimen. Sometimes in the first lesson, sometimes within a few weeks, you know, depends. But here's what we do. Now we're going to utilize those chord combinations from before, so just picking two of the chords we know and going back and forth. And I'm also going to grab my metronome, one of these. I would highly recommend acquiring a metronome. I like this one. I like Chord. So I highly recommend getting one if you don't want to shell out the big bucks for, you know, your own metronome. It's like 20 bucks or something. If you have a phone that supports apps, you can download a number of free apps that are metronomes, and that works well. If you don't want to drain your battery or whatever, you don't have a phone that can do that, you can also find a computer and go online and just Google metronome. And Google will provide you with a metronome. It's not the greatest, but it is something, and it works. You can also check out some various websites that have a free metronome feature. So you can either buy a metronome, download apps, go online. If all three of those options are not available to you, if your phone's out of batteries, if you don't have internet or whatever, and you don't have your own metronome, as a very last resort, you can just work on keeping a consistent, steady beat by yourself. Tap your foot, you know, or feel it with your whole body, you know, start off slow. And that's also a good practice. Just work on, you know, internalizing the beat. But I still do recommend, you know, getting a metronome so you can hear the beat as well. So anyway, just something to consider. Now, take your metronome and set it to 60. It's a pretty slow beat. It's going to sound like that. Okay? So what we're going to do is count off these beats in groups of 4, just like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also just strum your guitar's open strings like that, like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, not the prettiest sound ever, I know, but you're getting your right hand used to that tempo and used to that pace. So, you know, start off with that, kind of just get the hang of the tempo. And then what we're going to do is start that metronome again. And now we're going to play each chord for 4 beats. Just one strum and let it ring out. So like this. G, let's do G and E minor chord combination. So it's going to be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Etc. I just go back and forth like that. Now 4 beats is significant because most of the music we hear on the radio, most of the songs you're probably going to start off playing are in what they call 4/4 time. And that's where the measures are organized into, 4 beats. So if you have a chord progression, chances are each chord is going to be 4 beats. So we're getting used to, counting that way and hearing the chords, as 4 beats. And right now we're just doing 1 strum, letting it ring through. So that would, be notated as a whole note, 4 beats. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the thing is, you're only strumming once, so you have all the time in the world, or at least all the time within that 4 beats, which is quite a lot, to get to your next chord. And particularly with these 2 chords, they use a lot of open strings, so you can't really notice a transition. So if you need to go like this, G, 2, 3, 4, E minor, 2, 3, 4. Notice how early I'm changing. I'm allowing myself, a generous amount of transition time because I don't need to do anything right now. Okay? But I'm still playing in tempo. And back to E minor. Now eventually you want to get that a little bit faster and smoother. But for right now, you have a large, transition window. So everybody starts off with 1 strum. When you're doing okay with that, we'll move on to 2 strums. It's going to sound like this. 2, 3, 4. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So now we just cut our transition time in half. You still have 2 full beats to transition, but it's, you might have to push yourself a little bit more to get to that next chord. So 1, 2, 3, transition. 1, 2, 3, start the transition if necessary. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So you're cutting down on transition time a little bit, and hopefully your hand's getting a little bit quicker and smoother in between chords. Now, we're technically strumming half notes, 2 beats per strum. And, when you're ready, we're going to cut it in half again, and we're going to get quarter notes. So now we're just going to strum every beat, and our transition window is, about as small as it gets. So it's going to sound like this. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So now we're strumming every beat. The only time we have to change is between beats 4 and 1. And that's the way it usually is, to be honest. When you're playing songs, you're usually strumming all the way through the 4th beat, and then you have a split second to change. Here at this slow tempo with just 4 strums, only downstrokes right now. We're not doing any upstrokes or any fancy rhythms. It's still a generous amount of time to transition, all things considered, and it's a good place to start off. So if you're able to get, this tempo down, if you're able to transition smoothly and consistently for about a minute or 2 minutes, however long you can keep it up, then you might want to bump up the tempo a little bit. So, I was just at 60, here's 80. So 4 strums, 1, 2, 3, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And you can keep bumping that up, you know, as far as you want. And of course you can do other chords as well. I was just doing G and E minor here because they're the two easiest. Let's try C and D. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay? So take all these chord combinations, go through this process. You can start off with one strum, the 4 beats, 2 strums, 2 beats each, and then 4 strums, 1 beat each, and work on this every day. All right, so your chord practice routine should look something like this. You learn chords one at a time. You know, you spend a few minutes playing them, just getting familiar with them, warming up, if you will. Make sure they're sounding good. And then you move on to the chord combinations out of tempo and just going back and forth between some chords, you know, kind of as a, you know, practice run, making sure they're sounding good, taking small notes on things that you need to improve on, you know, noticing some transitional details, and then working on them in tempo. So here's the thing, when you play them in tempo, I'm telling you it's actually okay if the chords aren't 100% perfect right now. Yeah, believe it or not. The reason being, we're working on making them sound beautiful. We're working on making them sound crisp and clean. That's already a part of your practice routine. When you play in tempo, it's just harder. It's more difficult. And the thing we want to focus on is matching the tempo and not stopping, no matter what. Because when you're playing a song, you know, if you're performing, you can't stop. You can't, you know, take an extra split second and try to remember what chord is coming next, or, you know, give yourself any leeway, you know, for your slow-moving fingers. You got to keep going. You got to keep the tempo. So when we have a tempo, if your chords are a little bit off, it's okay for right now. Try to keep going. Eventually you want them to be perfect. You do, but you're going to work on that a little bit, you know, little by little over time. So if I go like, you know, let's say C and G, or let's do G and C, I mean. So like, my transition is a little bit off. It's okay, I'm just trying to keep going, trying to push through it, you know? If the chord isn't there, you gotta keep going. You gotta keep going. So, I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not trying to mock anybody who plays like that. That's perfectly okay. You want to keep the right hand going. You want to keep the left hand moving in tempo. You want to, you know how long you have for each chord. And eventually you just want to be able to fix those chords on the fly. So make the adjustment, you know. Start that again. You know, if it's not perfect, make an adjustment, figure it out. There we go. You know, if you have a problem, figure it out. Etc. So again, kind of being able to diagnose your problems quickly and in progress is very important. And the thing is, most people, when they hear music, or when they, let's say they're at a concert with someone singing and playing a guitar, they don't notice if your chords aren't perfect. Maybe a handful of guitar players in the audience will, like me and, you know, 2 or 3 other people. But chances are we don't really care because we're listening to the performance as a whole or the words of the song or whatever. And, you know, that's where our main attention is. But most people aren't, you know, they're not picky about guitar playing unless it's, unless it's really off. But yeah, a little bit of buzzing here or there if you hit a dead note or an extra string, most people don't notice. But if you are off with your rhythm or tempo, or if you cannot keep a consistent beat, everybody in the audience will notice and you'll be in trouble. People can feel it. If you're tapping your foot and you have to stop tapping, that's obvious. If a little bit of a note is off in a certain chord, that's not so obvious, to the common ear. So rhythm is key. Practice your rhythm. It's okay if the chords aren't perfect right now. Again, eventually you want everything to be perfect. You want your strumming to be good, you want your rhythm to be good, and you want your chords to be crisp and clean. But along the way, I believe the more important thing is to develop a sense of rhythm. And, that's just me. I've had students, back when I first started teaching guitar, we didn't focus on this enough. And they'd get into very bad habits of not being able to keep the tempo. So when they go to play with a song, like if we put on a recording, they just can't keep up. It's because, we didn't get in a good enough habit of playing in tempo with a metronome or playing with the recording enough. And I will say, as I've said before, it's very tough to correct this if it's too far, if it's too far down the road, if you already spent enough time learning it the wrong way. It's very hard to correct it, at a later point. So start early, develop your rhythm, and you will be, in good shape. So if you're looking for something a little more than your chord combinations, you can try out what we call chord progressions, or just a, written line of chords. And one very good one, very common chord progression you'll see in many different songs goes like this. I'll turn on my metronome. It's going to be like G, E minor, C, and D. All right? Those four chords all go together very well. They're kind of we'd say it's in the key of G, and all those chords are part of the key of G. There are thousands of songs that use those four chords. You can do a whole lot with them, and that progression is a good one to start off with. Play it the same way you would the chord combinations. You can start off with one strum each, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Move on to two strums, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then four strums. So it's, we're getting close to a song at that point. It's just one line of chords, but, if you play it enough times, you kind of get somewhat of a practice song, and it's a good one to start off with. As you learn more chords, you will learn some other progressions and, expand your chord vocabulary and kind of learn these chord phrases, and you'll certainly see them pop up in songs you learn. So anyway, that concludes, learning your first chords. And I hope you enjoyed everything. Thank you for watching this lesson. If you have any thoughts or questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel. Take a few weeks to work on this stuff, and when you're ready, I'll have another chord video for you. So don't forget to check back. But for now, thanks again, take care, and have a great day.